word to wise. Grass only greener when it's fertilized. Gave them truth in these songs, they prefer to lies. Destiny beautiful, adrift in her purple lies. You can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Evie and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's Ernie, Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. All right, today's video, we're going to be talking about Venom, #1 by Al Ewing, Ram V, and Brian Hitch. Don't worry, no hairlines were harmed during the making of this comic. All jokes aside, in this video, we are going to be talking about what it is exactly that Eddie Brock has had to sacrifice to take on his new role as the King in Black following the end of Donny Cates' run on Venom, as well as how is Dylan coping with his father's new role as the King in Black. And there's a new villain on the horizon promising to do what Null couldn't, and that's end Eddie Brock for good. We're going to talk about all this and more right now, but first, if you want to see more awesome videos like this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button because I post multiple videos throughout the week, plus live stream every Saturday. We're also trying to hit 75,000 subscribers before the end of the year, so if you've been on the fence about whether or not to hit that red button, consider becoming one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. Also, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to Hulk smash that like button because it really helps the channel out. That said, let's talk about Venom, #1. Okay, so if you're not familiar with what's going on at this particular point in Eddie Brock's Venom career, during the events of King in Black, Eddie Brock defeated Null once and for all, and in doing so, he became the new King in Black. This allows him the ability to communicate with all symbiotes across the universe. He can also take control of any symbiote just about, so long as it was connected to the Hive when Null was still in charge. The obvious outliers are the actual Venom symbiote, which has been disconnected from the Hive, and seemingly Sleeper, who also seems to be disconnected as well. Venom is able to take over all of the other symbiotes. He can literally assume direct control of any symbiote, no matter where he is. He can even be in 10 different places at once, as we've witnessed when during Donny Cates' final issue of Venom, Venom #200, where Venom was literally talking to the Guardians of the Galaxy, the Fantastic Four, the X-Men, Spider-Man, and a bunch of other people across the Marvel Comics universe at the same time, even though he wasn't really actually in any of these places at all. This has taken an incredible toll on his body, however, and while he's had to make usage of Stark technology to help him in his endeavors to reach across the entire cosmos to communicate with the Hive and all the symbiotes therein, but he has eventually learned how to communicate with other symbiotes without actually having to use any other outside equipment whatsoever. Where the problem arises for Eddie Brock is that he doesn't have time anymore. While yes, he has taken on his role as being a father to Dylan after all these years not knowing that he had a son, learning that he has a son, and then now having to take on the responsibility of raising that child, he also has the responsibility of being the King in Black. And as we can imagine with Eddie Brock, he's not particularly good at juggling two responsibilities at once. It almost kind of comes off as though he's taken his role as the King in Black almost too seriously, to the point that he's neglecting Dylan. Dylan at least feels that way. There's moments in this comic where Dylan even brings up that Eddie sometimes disappears for entire weeks, sometimes even multiple weeks at a time. And it's affecting Dylan. He misses his father and he feels like he's not really getting any attention. He feels incredibly unloved, which I think deep down, Dylan actually knows that his father loves him, but he just doesn't feel like it right this second. He feels like his dad would rather be the King in Black rather than be his father. And that sucks for Dylan because it's causing Dylan to lash out at school to the point that his school is thinking about kicking him out because he's gotten in so many fights. He's been involved in at least 4 fights within the last 2 weeks of him being enrolled in school. And the fighting alone isn't really the issue. He gets bullied a lot, but it's because Dylan knows how to fight back and he technically has access to some gifts which make him dangerous to any other normal person, and sometimes he might slip up and use them, and he's been beating the brakes off any of the kids who mess with him. all of that aside, what does this mean for Eddie as the King in Black? Well, his role has become more complicated. In the wake of Null's cutting a swath across the cosmos, destroying just about every civilization on his way to Earth, we also recently had to deal with the events of Dormammu's invasion from Al Ewing's The Last Annihilation, where Dormammu was literally within a nut hair of plunging the entire universe into the dark dimension. Well, Eddie's trying to play cleanup from that. He's trying to help get things back on track in the universe and trying to do his part and help wherever he can. Also trying to get people to not see symbiotes as terrible creatures capable of untold evil as they have kind of been labeled since the events of King in Black. While he's on a routine mission to help some people who have been attacked by space pirates, one of the 4 symbiotes that Eddie is taking control of to help him in his mission just so happens to go into business for himself. And wouldn't you know, it's the one he named Ringo, of all things. I mean, yes, all of these symbiotes are named after the Beatles, George, Ringo, Paul, John, but yeah, leave it to Ringo to be the one that's out here up. But that's just it. This particular symbiote lets Eddie know off rip that he's not going to win, that something is coming to get him. Whoever it is that is controlling this symbiote that seemingly isn't exactly connected to the Hive, whoever is controlling it lets him know that he's going to win. He's going to destroy Eddie Brock. He's going to destroy the new King in Black, and there's nothing that he can do about it. He basically pulls the whole quotey fingers Mandarin from Iron Man 3, the whole "you'll never see me coming" line. He's coming for the throne. He's still gonna take Eddie's mantle of King in Black while it still has the new car smell on it. And he lets him know this isn't personal. This isn't a warning. This isn't a threat. He's going to kill him. He's going to destroy him. There's nothing he can do. There's nowhere he can go. There's nowhere he can run. There's nowhere he can hide. Nothing he tries to do will change what is going to happen, implying that whoever this is might be speaking to Eddie from the future, someone who already knows how events are going to unfold. This leads to Eddie figuring out that he cannot just travel across space when it comes to communicating and assuming direct control of symbiotes no matter how far from Earth they are, but maybe he can take control of a symbiote in another time. We get to see this play out only briefly because Eddie is inexperienced. He doesn't know what he's doing. This is all new to him. But what we do learn is that as Eddie is trying to figure all this out, he begins seeing things from the future, things that are about to come to pass, and even some things that may not happen for quite some time. We're introduced to a character by the name of Bedlam, seemingly a symbiote, no different than Venom, but one that seems immensely huge and powerful. We also realize that Venom has some connection to Kang the Conqueror, that he and Kang have supposedly at some point become allies. We even see a moment involving an attack helicopter pilot that's about to happen right now, but Eddie doesn't know it at that precise moment in time. You see, Eddie is in hiding right now because something is coming after Dylan and himself. Someone who looks exactly like Eddie, so much to the point Dylan doesn't even realize it's not actually Eddie. He has no clue that this isn't his dad. He doesn't learn the truth until his dad calls him when this quotey fingers fake Eddie tries to get him to go somewhere with him but doesn't tell him where. Even Sleeper doesn't seem to understand exactly what's going on, nor does he even seem to be able to detect that it isn't Eddie Brock. But Eddie is able to direct Dylan in what to do and to get the heck out of Dodge because whoever it is, they may very well be connected to that ominous voice that Eddie spoke with when he was fighting the space pirates. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, Blerd hasn't mentioned anything about Venom proper. What's up with Venom? Where is Venom? What's going on? Why have we not actually seen Venom in all this? Well, the reason is because Venom also went somewhere on their own, going their separate ways. For whatever reason, they just needed to go find themselves and figure out what was going on, maybe go on some journey of self-discovery. But they did return just in time because the attack helicopter pilot that Eddie caught a glimpse of when he was looking into the future fires a blast at the hotel room he's hiding out in, completely obliterating Eddie Brock right before Dylan's eyes. And the only person that's there to help Dylan in this moment where his life is now in total danger is the Venom symbiote having recently returned, hiding in the guise of a passerby. Now, this moment is very important because one of the chief things that Eddie told Dylan, one of the main rules he told him is to never bond with a symbiote. And that's exactly what Dylan is about to do, becoming the Venom that we were teased to us Plus in Donny Cates' final issue of Venom. Now, of course, Dylan makes a pretty good Venom. Now, for the most part, the Venom symbiote is doing most of the piloting here, more or less, but Dylan's able to take down an entire platoon of soldiers who seem to have been convinced that they were trained to take down a symbiote, but I don't think they actually got the training that they think they got. All that aside, I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, Eddie is not actually dead. Eddie is alive, more or less. You see, he did actually get blown up, but because he's the King in Black, he can seemingly reconstitute his own body just in another place and maybe another time. Or at the very least, someone else was able to take his remains, which is very likely what happened based on the stinger that I'm about to talk about, and somehow those remains were brought back to life. But whatever it is that's going on with Eddie, he seemingly has a new friend, someone who calls himself Meridius, and he seems to be presenting himself as an ally to the King in Black. This has to have happened in the future because we see in a stinger at the end of this book that Meridius seemingly has the remains of Eddie Brock from that hotel explosion, going on about how all that is happening now has already happened before. Like, there's going to be a lot of time travel and playing with time, especially if you take into account that Kang the Conqueror is involved in this to some degree or another. But we're going to see a lot of stuff coming Eddie Brock's way, as well as Dylan's way. I have a sneaking suspicion that, yeah, while we're going to be spending a lot of time with Dylan Brock, is of course we know that Dylan is going to have to contend with the original Kraven the Hunter's daughter, who is taking up the mantle, Anastasia Kravinoff. We also know that Big Mother is going to be making a return very soon, who we just recently saw in the events of King in Black and the Scream miniseries. And whatever is going on, Meridius is going to be playing a very big role in a lot of these things to come. Is he the mysterious voice that spoke to Eddie, telling him that the end is already nigh for his time as the King in Black? It's hard to say, but something tells me Meridius either is that voice or knows a lot about what is going on. But just based on the ominous nature of how he is introducing himself, I can't help but feel like something is not right about Meridius. Especially when you consider the fact that the symbol that he has on his chest is very similar to the symbol that is on the doctors that are working with him, as well as the soldiers who attacked Eddie. Who is this guy? I'm not really sure. Either way, a lot of the things introduced in this comic are all brand new concepts. The concept of Bedlam, the concept of Meridius, and even the concept of whoever it is that's coming after Eddie Brock. Hell, some of these could be one and the same. There's no real actual telling, and we don't really know the true identity of whoever was pretending to be Eddie Brock. It's very difficult to say, but I can definitely say this comic is kicking into high gear right off the bat. I wasn't really sure what to expect from the pairing of Al Ewing and Ram V. I knew that whatever it was would be good and that they would come at it from an angle that we haven't quite seen quite some time or even ever before. And that's exactly what they did. Now, of course, it being a book written by Al Ewing, we're getting some nods towards some of the things that have happened in some of Al Ewing's other stories, because we know he also wrote Guardians of the Galaxy. We also know that he writes for Sword, and of course, he was the main guy behind the whole Empire event, as well as The Last Annihilation. So there's a lot of connections that are going to come to play there. And Ram V being an excellent writer as well, don't be surprised if some elements from the story that they wrote in Carnage, Black, White, and Blood doesn't come up. You never know. Ram V's work is mostly been on the DC comic side of things, so there's not really a whole heap of a lot that they can drag over from there over to Marvel. I mean, maybe some concepts from some things that they've written, but I don't think you're going to see any actual connections to anything the way you'll see with Al Ewing. But man, this is a dream team. I like what they have going here, and I'm here for it. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video, Hulk smash that like button and make sure to share it all over the internet and with all your friends so they'll know how you leveled up your comic book big brain in regards to Al Ewing and Ram V's Venom. On your way out, make sure to hit that subscribe button because we are trying to hit 75,000 subscribers by the end of the year. So if you haven't done so already, hit that red button and become one of Earth's mightiest subscribers. That said, let me know what you thought about Venom #1. Keep it plus ultra and sound off in the comments.